So that marks, like, the halfway point of Star Wars Infinity's New Hope.
Okay.
And now there's a massive 5-year time skip.
Oh, okay.
And so it comes back, and we see Han and Chewie hiding out on Ord Mantell. And they're, like, they're just kind of laying low, and they're seeing, like, a news broadcast from Coruscant that's Reunification Day. And so the Empire is celebrating peace, that the rebellion was defeated 5 years ago. They're rebringing the Senate back up. So the new Imperial Senate. And they're making the Death Star into the seat of the Senate, so that the Senate, the seat of government, can now be mobile throughout the galaxy.
That's pretty
So
cool.
it's like a true intergalactic Senate.
Yeah.
And Leia has actually come out now. So Leia is now the host of this like parade, the celebration with all the senators and everything.
Okay.
And she's talking about how she was wrong to lead a bloody and violent revolt against the Empire, and she's going with this speech, and she ends with, like, long live the Empire, and this pisses Han off. Han's just like, shut up, and he fucking smashes the broadcast. And everybody in the bar is just like, is that the smuggler that Jabba wants? And Han's just like, Chewie, we should go.
Oh, man, Han.
So Han, then you get, like, a 5-page montage of Han and Chewie running away from bounty hunters and just yelling at each other, and they immediately run into a battalion of stormtroopers. And so they turn around, and you just get them, like, yelling, and Han's like, shut up, Chewie, and Chewie's growling and everything. And there's just, like, this wall of bounty hunters and stormtroopers just following him and shooting at him. And you get some of the stupidest faces out of Chewie you'll ever see. And then they fly up into space, and there's, like, 5 Star Destroyers like, that guy, fuck him up. And they're just like, you couldn't just walk away. You had to break the TV, huh? And so they get into hyperspace, and Han's like, set a course for Dagobah, Chewie. We gotta go get Luke and save the princess.
Alright. That's pretty cool.
Right? It's totally just messes up the timeline. So, we go back to Dagobah, and Luke is nearing the end of his Jedi training. He's got his black robes, he's, like, levitating, he's, like, lifting rocks and, like, meditation and everything. Mm-hmm. And, he goes back into the cave. Like, Yoda says, alright, you have one more trial that you need to complete. And Luke hands him his lightsaber, and he says, remember, Luke, your lightsaber is not the only weapon you have. Take none of them. Mm-hmm. So, like, don't use the Force as a weapon. You know. And so he goes
still has his blue lightsaber now, right? He still has Anakin's? He didn't build the green one?
Yes, he does not build the green one. He still has the blue one in here. Which was actually really cool, because I didn't expect that when I was getting to the end, because I forgot that. I thought he had the green one when I was reading the comic before. But he does still have the blue one. And so he goes back into the cave, and he once again finds the Vader shadow. And he dodges the lightsaber a few times before closing his eyes, and he sees visions from throughout history. He sees Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul, Padme, you know, he sees Yoda, he sees, like, the events of the prequel Wars trilogy, and he sees all this, and he yells, no, and the Vader Phantom vanishes. Like, he has defeated the dark side within himself. That's the point of this. And as he turns around, or as he's standing there, somebody behind him says, hey, have you seen this gangly-looking Jedi Master kid? I'm looking for him. And he turns around, and Han's in the cave. and there's this really funny reference to Indiana Jones, because he's like, Han, look out, a snake! And Han, like, grabs the snake off him. He's like, it's just a little old snake, Luke. He ain't doing nothing to nobody. Oh, man. So then, you know, they leave the cave, and they're talking to Yoda, and Han's explaining the situation, and he's like, we got to go do something, I came to tell you about the situation with Leia and stuff. And Luke goes, well, we got to do something. We both owe Leia a lot, and we need to do something to help her. And Chewie, being Chewie, just goes, which roughly in Wookiee means, fuck it, I'm down, let's go.
Okay.
And Han's like, since when did you sign up for suicide missions? Oh, that's right, all the time. And Han's like, all right, fine, you're right, I do owe you and Leia a lot, so I'm in. And Yoda goes, oh, me as well you do, for eating my food. A ride in your vessel, I think, will pay me back. So
Yoda comes with?
So they're taking Yoda with. And then this section, this last section is, before they go, though, Yoda takes Luke aside to explain stuff. He's like, now, before we go, I have to tell you the truth of some things before it drives you to the dark side.
Okay. And
so he explains that Anakin is Vader, that Luke's father is Vader. So that's how he finds out. And he's like, you had no right to keep that from me. And old Ben shows up as well, and he's like, we had to keep it from you for at least this long so that the truth of it wouldn't make you impatient, wouldn't drive you to the dark side. And they both also explain that Leia is his sister.
Yeah.
And that Vader, or the Emperor, never knew that she existed until recently. Okay. Because he felt her in the Force. So he had long sought Luke as the true heir to the Sith Empire. But his sister would do as well.
Okay.
The daughter of Vader. So now that Luke knows all this...
So the Emperor also knows that Luke is Vader's son.
Yes.
Okay.
He's been after Luke for a long time.
Okay.
But because he couldn't find him, he realized that Leia was also a Skywalker.
And she accomplished just as much as he
and
can.
She wields just as much potential for good and evil in the Force as Luke does.
Okay.
So after that's explained, that's the last we see of old Ben's ghost. Like, he's finally at peace, and he goes into the Force. And Yoda goes with, because Yoda's old, and he knows he's going to die, and he's like, fuck it,
I'll fight Palpatine one last time before I kick the bucket. Let's go, guys. Has anyone seen my lightsaber?
And then this last section is what I like to call the crazy dumb stupid suicide mission.
Okay.
Because we have Han Solo, Chewbacca, Luke Skywalker, Yoda, and R2-D2 that are now going to take on the vast majority of the Imperial forces, including the majority of the fleet, the Death Star, Vader, Palpatine, and now a Sith-trained Leia.
I believe you can take them all.
So, this is the final section of the storyline, and this is where shit gets nuts.
Okay.
So, the first thing that happens is that the Millennium Falcon flies up to the Death Star, and Han's like, why are we going back here? And Luke's just like, you gotta trust Master Yoda on this one. And they land, and he's like, well, at least we know the way to the brig. And the stormtroopers are all like, oh, drop your weapons and prepare to be boarded. And Yoda comes out with R2-D2. And he's like, oh, take me to Tarkin, you will. A surprise it will be. Free to go they are. And Han's just like, man, that Force shit's amazing. And they just fly away and leave Yoda and R2-D2 on the Death Star.
Okay.
And Luke and Han and Chewie take the Falcon down to the Jedi Temple, which is now the Imperial residence.
Okay.
So the Empire lives in the Jedi, or the Emperor lives in the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
And Luke gets out and he's like, all right, I've got to go do this. And Han and Chewie are standing there too. And Han's like, all right, Chewie, keep the ship warmed up and ready to pick us up. And Luke's like, wait, you're coming too? And Han's like, yeah, why not?
Go for it, Han.
Han's like, whatever, man. I love Han in this story. He's so good. So then we get a flash back to the Death Star, and we see Tarkin like in his personal quarters, and he gets a message like, oh, the shuttle's here to pick you up, sir. And he's like, all right, I'll be there shortly. And he turns around, and Yoda and R2-D2 are just in his office. And Yoda's like, long time it has been, Tarkin. He, like, melts Tarkin's brain. And he's just like, a tour of your station, I would like. And so Tarkin just fucking takes Yoda down the Death Star.